Hey guys, so today I'll be doing an upgrade of my main desktop computer. So I built this custom desktop computer about 2 years ago, back in 2021, and I did a whole video about it. And recently I decided to buy a new gaming monitor, which is the Alienware 34-inch curved OLED. And in order to push that monitor better, I thought about upgrading my GPU as well. So I had kind of an old GPU, I guess, by modern day standards. I had an RTX 2070. That's actually a GPU from like 20. I bought in 2020, but it was actually really released in 2018. So that GPU is actually about 5 years old in terms of how long it's been since it was released. So I thought, okay, I'm going to upgrade my GPU as well. And I looked at the 4060 Ti, which I know is a GPU that not many PC gamers like now, because they say it's not a good price to performance ratio, but it's still a 40% performance improvement over my 2070, looking at the benchmarks. So I decided to get the Asus GeForce RTX 4060 Ti. This was $400, and I know a lot of people say, well, why not just get a 4070? Well, it's 4070 is like an extra $200 or whatever. So to me, I'm not going to pay an extra $200 because this is already good enough for me. This is already 40% improvement over my 2070. So I don't need to pay another $200. I know it's better, right? You get more performance and stuff like that. But for this, it hits the price for me, my budget range. So this is $400 upgrade, RTX 4060 Ti. And what happened was, unfortunately, I think something with my power supply or something, there was some issue with this GPU that eventually caused my computer to start crashing, and eventually it just wouldn't start booting up at all. So I didn't know what was the issue with my computer. Just kept crashing, wouldn't start up. So I took it to the repair shop. I tried to fix it myself, of course. I tried swapping back to the old GPU. Nothing was working. It just wouldn't boot up anymore. It wouldn't get past that little loading screen. It just kept spinning and then it would just shut off. So I took it to the repair shop, and they said it might be an issue with the CPU, actually. So that's kind of weird to me. It's like, I don't know why changing out my GPU would cause an issue with my CPU, but maybe there was some issue with the power supply or something like that, and maybe it caused an issue with the motherboard or CPU. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's what they said. And I'm not going to pay them extra money to upgrade the CPU because I'm just going to do it myself. That's something I can do myself, right? So that's what this video is about. So I ended up actually getting a new CPU, a different kind of CPU, because, well, if I'm getting a new CPU anyways, I don't have to go with Ryzen again. So I did have an AMD Ryzen 7 5800X. That was the CPU that I guess had an issue. But then I looked online for the benchmarks and stuff, and it seems that Intel is actually catching up to AMD now. It used to be, right, Intel dominated for a very long time, for over a decade. Then AMD with their Ryzen series of processors, then they came back and they started beating Intel on the price to performance ratio and just performance in general, actually. They've always beaten Intel on the price to performance ratio in some ways, but they've gotten back to the upper end of the CPU market. Right now, a lot of people are running Ryzen processors in their computers because the Ryzen processors have caught up to Intel and exceeded them in a lot of ways. But now Intel fought back, and I think their newer processors are just as good as the Ryzen's. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll try going back to Intel and seeing what happens, because actually a lot of the recent Intel processors are actually quite good. So this is the Intel Core i7 12700K. It's not like a new processor, it's not the latest generation, but this is considered to be a pretty good processor, and actually should be faster than the Ryzen 7 5800X that it came from. So I thought, okay, let's go back to Intel, because I've actually been using Intel for many, many years. The AMD Ryzen that was inside of this computer, that was actually my first Ryzen, that was actually my first AMD processor since forever, basically. I think that was just my first computer with an AMD processor in it. So yeah, I've historically always been more Intel. So I thought, okay, let's go back to Intel and check this out, because according to benchmarks and stuff, this should actually be a better processor than the Ryzen 7 5800X. And it's not the newest one, but it's considered to be a pretty good processor. So yeah, and of course, because I'm upgrading or changing to Intel rather, I have to get a new motherboard as well, because AMD and Intel use different sockets. But the thing is, AMD's newer processors already use a different socket anyways, so I probably would have had to make a motherboard change anyways. So yeah, like, that's the thing about CPU makers, right? That's the thing about Intel and AMD, is that every few generations they're going to change the socket. So then if you change the socket, you got to change your motherboard too. So yeah, so if I'm going to change my motherboard for AMD, I might as well just, you know, try Intel, because I'm going to change it anyways. So anyways, that's where I got the new motherboard for the Intel processor. Because yeah, you know, AMD and Intel processors can't go into each other's sockets, right? They're not compatible. So need a new motherboard, and this was about $200, I believe, the B760i. And this is pretty much the Intel equivalent to my old motherboard, and I think my old motherboard was a B550 or something, 550i. So this is the B760i, the Intel version essentially, and it's a budget gaming motherboard. I don't need a fancy motherboard with, you know, higher CPU, more PCIe lanes or something. I don't really make use of that. So this should be good enough for me. And this was $200 US. And then the Intel 12700K I actually got on a sale for about $200 US as well. I think normally it's more than that, but I got it for about $200 US on a good deal. And then 4060 Ti, like I said, was $400. And then the SF850L, which is the Corsair PSU, I'm upgrading to. So I'm going to upgrade my PSU as well, since I had an issue with it before. So let's put this one in front. Alright, so I'm going to upgrade my PSU as well. So the current PSU that's inside my computer is a 600 watt rated Gold Plus Corsair PSU. And I'm upgrading to the SF850L, which is a 750 watt rated, and it's Gold Plus as well. And yeah, the reason I'm upgrading it is just to be safe, right? Because technically the 4060 Ti, when I looked up the specs of this, it actually draws less power than the 2070. So I don't know why it would affect the PSU, because it supposedly draws less power. So if it's good enough for the 2070, and it ran my 2070 pretty well for 2 years, why wouldn't it run the 4060? Like, why would it have an issue? I don't know. Anyways, just to be safe, I'm going to upgrade my PSU as well. So yeah, I'm going to upgrade it to this one, SF850. Well, it has to be a small form factor, SFX, because this is a mini ITX build. So I need a PSU that can fit inside there. And it already has a Corsair, so I know that Corsair PSUs already work inside of this case. So I might as well just upgrade to the next level Corsair PSU. So that's this one, and this costs about $150 US. And then, of course, the industry standard Noctua thermal paste for applying the CPU, about $12 US. So it's this is pretty much an industry standard at this point. Everyone uses this, right? Noctua NTH2. I already have a Noctua CPU cooler, and I'm going to continue using that one inside of here. So that one's not going to be changed. And then I'm going to upgrade my RAM as well, because my current RAM is DDR4, and you know, the new motherboard actually supports DDR5, so why not just upgrade my RAM as well? So this is a Corsair Vengeance DDR5. I already have a Corsair Vengeance DDR4, and it's pretty much a straight upgrade, 32 gigs to 32 gigs, just this is going to be faster. It's DDR5. And this cost about $100. So yeah, $100 for 32 gigs, actually not too bad. So yeah, anyways, that is what I'll be upgrading. I'll be upgrading the motherboard, the CPU. The CPU is why I have to upgrade the motherboard as well. My current motherboard is actually fine. It just changing the CPU requires an upgrade to the motherboard, and upgrading the RAM to DDR5, and then of course new thermal paste because I don't have my old one anymore. PSU gets an upgrade, and then of course I still have the GPU upgrade I did. And I'm going to keep the current Noctua CPU cooler I have on here. I'm going to keep the case, obviously, nothing wrong with the case. And I'm going to keep my hard drives on here because I don't want to lose any of my data. So I'm just going to keep all the rest of that stuff. Alright, let's get on with the upgrade here. So this is a Lian Li TU150, I believe, case. I picked this one because this was the smallest mini ITX case I could find that didn't have any thermal issues. And I wanted to have a mini ITX because I'm limited space in my apartment, but I also didn't want one that was too small because they had thermal issues, right? So although the Corsair ones or whatever, and the super small like Asus or Razer ones, whatever, they all had issues or they were too expensive. So I didn't, yeah, if you want like a really small mini ITX one, you kind of have to go with a pre-built, because the pre-built ones, like, yeah, like the Corsair or whatever, those ones are actually smaller, or some of the MSIs or Asus, I think, have really small cases that you can't normally get from other manufacturers, but the problem is they usually have thermal issues and they're really expensive, so that's why. Alright, so I'm going to take this out. Alright. Alright, so we're going to change out a lot of parts here. So they should have two SSDs in here actually that I put on. So, okay. Man, back to where I was 2 years ago, working on this computer. Man, I never thought that changing out the GPU would like screw up my computer. That was unexpected side effect. Okay. I'm gonna take out the PCIe cables here. Oh yeah, and I have cooler master fans here as well, and I'm just going to keep those in. I don't do any fancy liquid cooling or whatever, just air cooling is fine for me. Some people just want liquid cooling because it looks cooler. Maybe it's more performant, but I'm just a simple guy, keep it air cooled. Alright, so took out all the PCIe cables here from the PSU and the GPU here. Yeah, let's... Alright. And there's a little thing I gotta push down the motherboard, get the GPU up. The PCIe lock there. Okay, there we go. Alright, so this is the RTX 4060 Ti that apparently messed up my computer. I never thought that would happen. I mean, it technically is supposed to draw less power than 2070. I had a Zotac 2070 in here before. So, anyways, I'm not sure what happened here. So the Asus 4060 Ti. Alright, anyways, that one's out, and next, let's see what we can do here. Okay, CPU cooler I think can be taken off next. Yeah. Okay, so these are Noctua NFA12 fans. Noctua is basically almost like a premium maker of computer fans. So they're usually more expensive, but they do perform very well. So yeah, Noctua fans that came with the cooler. And get the RAM out actually as well. Okay. Okay, this is my 2 sticks of Corsair Vengeance, 32 gigabytes RAM total, 16 and 16. Yeah, we're going to be upgrading those to DDR5. So that's the Corsair Vengeance RAM. Okay, It is kind of a bitch to get the PSU cables like unattached from the motherboard, and I think a lot of people might empathize with this. It's just so firmly attached to the motherboard right now. No matter how much I try to like get this clip detached from it, it just will not detach. So that's extremely annoying. My god. Okay. Super annoying to get this. Oh my god. Alright, I'm just going to get the entire motherboard out, and I'm going to get the PSU out with it. So I'm just going to take both of them out, since we're replacing both of them anyways. I don't necessarily need to detach the PSU. I just need to, actually I just need to get the CPU cooler. That's it. Because I'm reusing the CPU cooler, so I just need to get the CPU cooler out. So yeah, I actually just need to get the motherboard and then get the CPU cooler from it, and then I got the PSU out too. Man, these screws on these motherboard is kind of tricky. Oh, come on. You need a flathead? Try that. Yeah, I need a flathead. Sometimes you need a flathead for the stubborn screws. The Phillips ones, I mean. Like, sometimes you need a flathead for a Phillips screw that's really stubborn. Okay, so I think I'm finally able to get the motherboard out. So this is the motherboard. Now, like I said, it's still attached to the PSU because I can't get the PSU cables out, so we'll need to detach the PSU. Okay, I think the PSU is on this side. Yeah, okay. So I think the screws to the PSU on this. Okay, so it's on this side. I have to get this PSU out here. Once I get this one off. Okay. Now this is the 600 watt. It's the SF600, yeah. The SF600, and I'm going to replace it with the SF850, which is 850 watts. So it's going to be an upgrade from a 600 watt PSU to an 850 watt PSU. And I think that should be enough with the 4060 Ti and the new Intel chip, right? But yeah, look how old and worn out this one is. Yeah. I've been using this PSU since 2019, I think, because it actually came from my CyberPower Cyber C PC that I had custom built. So yeah, this PSU is pretty old. It's basically dates back to 2019. So yeah, definitely, I think definitely needs to be replaced. So yeah, that's the Corsair PSU SF600. All right, so now that we got the PSU out, we can just take out the motherboard. Yeah, the cables and stuff. Oh, actually, no, we do need to detach these cables, because these cables are, I think these cables are connected to the case. Oh man, okay. Yeah, okay, never mind, I do need to detach these cables. Well, at least I have easier access to them now, I guess. But yeah, I need to detach these cables still, because they're actually part of the case. Yeah, damn it. Just gotta jiggle them out. Alright, I got one of them out. The other one needs to be jiggled out too, I think. Just gotta need a flathead basically to help get these cables out. So yeah, use a flathead to like kind of like pry some of the cable latches loose, because I think that's how it works. The cables are otherwise just too stuck, and then just gotta jiggle them out. Alright, so my trick to getting the cables detached from the motherboard is you gotta like pry the cable latch loose with a flathead screwdriver first, and then in order to help jiggle them out, I kind of push on them. I push on the edges with my flathead as well to kind of jiggle them out. So that's how I did it. But normally, I think by hand, I don't know who's able to do that by hand, because that's really difficult by hand. Anyways, here is the motherboard, CPU, and the CPU cooler here attached. So all we really need from this is the CPU cooler, because I'm reusing the Noctua CPU cooler here. And the motherboard and the CPU, I think I'm just gonna leave it and sell it probably, because it's still like, the motherboard is okay. Actually, the CPU is the issue, right? So I'll probably just sell the motherboard with a CPU that you can always pry out the CPU, right? So yeah, that's pretty much what we need changed up from the case here. So now you guys see the case is completely empty because we removed all the components here. So yeah, motherboard. No, not the motherboard. Motherboard was here, and then my hard drives are still here. So this is my HDD drive. I have 2 SSDs that are still on the motherboard. So yeah, I have an HDD here that's 3 terabytes, and then here's where the motherboard went, and the PSU went here, and the GPU actually went here. So yeah, I think that's basically how it was. All right, and I'm keeping this. This is actually a dirty cooler, so I'm gonna have to clean this. But I'm keeping this cooler master cooler here as well. This fan. Okay, so I actually do need these SSDs as well, because I'm gonna be putting them in my new motherboard. So yeah, I think I just need the SSDs from the motherboard now. And I think they're under the shield here. So I can keep the 3.5 inch there, because that can be connected later to my new motherboard. But this one is stuck. The two M2 SSDs are actually on the old motherboard. So move this heatsink right here, and of course we need the CPU cooler too. So that's what we'll be getting from the old motherboard, is the CPU cooler and the SSDs. Alright, so I took out one of the SSDs. This is an Intel 660p, which I believe was my main SSD that the operating system was on. And then I have another 1 terabyte SSD, which is a Samsung 970 EVO Plus, and that's actually on the bottom of the motherboard. So that's the way that this motherboard does it. So you have one SSD, M2 SSD slot on top, and then one M2 SSD on the bottom here. So. So this is a CPU cooler heatsink, and I also have to get the CPU cooler mount out as well. Main thing is I hope I don't lose any data on my hard drives. That's the most important thing, and I hope that I can get my computer fixed. And with the new CPU and everything. And this is the CPU cooler bracket, I think, that goes on the underside. That's pretty much it. Now this is just the bare motherboard with the CPU, which is an AMD Ryzen 7 5800X. So that's it. And then of course I can always take out the CPU because apparently it's damaged. But yeah, this is it. The bare motherboard and the CPU, the AMD CPU on here. So I'm gonna leave that here, and we got the CPU cooler mounting brackets and everything out, which are these things. And we have the CPU cooler fans right here. We have the CPU cooler heatsink right here. We have our SSDs. PSU is no longer needed. I'm gonna install a new one. And then a hard drive can be just stuck on there. And of course we got a GPU right here. So yeah, we are ready to install the new components onto the case. So hopefully this will work and I can fix my computer and finally get it running again. Alright, so I'm gonna clean out the fans here a little bit. Yeah, alright. And these ones are okay. Alright, so yeah, we're just gonna install the new components now. Okay, so let's see. This one aside. Okay, first thing is clearly the motherboard, which is the heart of the computer. Alright, so the Asus ROG B760i gaming Wi-Fi. Yep, so this is essentially the Intel equivalent of this B550i AMD motherboard. Except this one is for Intel processors. It has similar features though. I'm assuming the layout might be a bit similar, but we'll see. So yeah, this comes with a bunch of cables. So it comes with cables there. What is this thing? Just like a mini sticker? This is like a... it's like some kind of mini padding sticker thing. Yeah, this is like a small PCIe, not PCIe, but it's a small like a connector cable right here. This is like, I guess the heat shield for the SSD is here. And a little strap, Asus ROG strap thing is here. I'm not going to need that. Very, very tiny screws are here. Yeah, you guys probably can't even see that, it's so tiny. More tiny screws. Even more tiny screws with like a little latch. There's more connector cables. And more connector cables. And zip ties for managing the cables. In case they get too messy. Okay, so this is a little message here. Get ready to rock the gaming world with the ROG Strix. Okay, we know ROG is pretty well known as a gaming brand. Asus is it's just Asus's gaming brand, and they're everywhere if you're in the gaming world. So yeah, this is a manual. I'm gonna need to consult this, of course. So yeah, just user guide here. We got Asus web storage. I think a lot of this I'm actually not going to use. So. A lot of this I'm not going to use. I'm going to put that. Okay. You got stickers. I'm not sure how many ROG stickers I'm going to use, but there's a lot of different stickers here that you can put on the case, I guess. You can decorate your case with them, but I'm not sure maybe I'll put like a few stickers. I think I already have an Asus ROG sticker, so I don't need to have this many stickers. This is kind of crazy. That's a lot. Motherboard technical updates, and then the guide to the ATX power definition right here, which we'll need to consult for connecting the PSU. So this one's important. And then a little strip here, adhesive strip for something, I guess. I'll have to take a look. So, all right, and this is the motherboard itself. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, this one's definitely more colorful, that's for sure, than the one I had before. Yep, so it's mostly pretty similar. It's just a little bit more colorful, I would say. Yeah, it's pretty much the same configuration. So, look, this is actually bigger. This part here, I think this is the heat sink or something, or actually the connecting ports, right? So you still get the M2 SSD connector on the back here as well. So you get two M2 SSD slots. Yeah, one of them is going to be beneath this heat shield part here, and the other is going to be on the back, just like with the B550i. And then this is where you put your CPU, obviously, and RAM slots. You got your standard 2 DIMM slots right here for your RAM. I'm put the DDR5 RAM in there. You got your pin connectors for the PSU and the GPU. And then, oh yeah, this one is actually for the GPU. So this is the PCIe connector for the GPU right here, and then the rest of this one's here for the PSU and stuff. And then you got some other connectors here. These are usually for like controlling the fans or any RGB lighting. You have them there. Yeah, and then there are more pins right here, right there for like various things, lighting or cooling and stuff like that. All right, let's take a look. Compared to this one, it's pretty similar. So if I compare it like this. All right, so this is my old one, the B550i, and then the new one, which is the B760i. Oops. You can see pretty similar layout, right? Yeah, fairly similar layout, I think. Let's look at the connectors. I think they're pretty similar too. I think they're pretty much similar, except for a few things. Okay, so the B550i, right, has a full-size display port, full-size HDMI. That's going into the integrated graphics. And then you got 3 USB ports right here, 2 USB-C, another USB port that's not a USB 3, I think. It's interesting. These 3 are USB 3, looks like, or 3.1 or 3.2. This one just like a more standard USB, but should be still USB 3, I think. This one's an Ethernet connector, RJ45. Reset, there's a reset button right here, and then 3 audio ports right here. So yeah, 3 audio ports, antenna for the Wi-Fi. Yeah, and then rest right here. I think this is similar. Some things are different though. So you still got your full-size display port, HDMI. You got actually more USB ports here. So here we had only 4 total USB ports. On the 760i, you have a total of 5 USB ports. So there's more USB ports on the B760i. Ethernet, of course, and 2 USB-C, antenna, and you have more. Looks like you have more audio ports. So this one you only have 3 audio ports. This one you have 5. You have a rear C sub, line in, line out, and a mic in. So yeah, you have more, I guess, surround options here since it has a C sub and a rear. So that's like surround options, and then yeah, antenna for the Wi-Fi and everything. So this one does have more ports. It has 2 more USB ports, and it has 2 more audio ports compared to the 550i. So yeah, I mean, this is a bit of a newer generation, right? 760, and this is a 550. So this is like 1 generation behind. So all right, let's start out. So again, this is what the motherboard looks like. And I'll be putting in the CPU. I'm sure I have my thermal paste. Okay, this is the Noctua N12 thermal paste, pretty industry standard. As mentioned, all right. What the heck? Why is this box opening like glued together? Alright, here we go. Alright. Okay, so we got some Noctua cleansing wipes, and then we got the thermal paste right here, the NT12, the NTH2, which is a very, very popular thermal paste. So this is what we'll be using to, it looks like a needle, right? We'll be using this to apply thermal paste, to apply it to install the CPU. All right. Okay, yeah, just install the heatsink back onto the SSD heatsink back onto the motherboard. You can see now how similar they are. 550, 760, except this is a newer generation. But since it's ROG, and I did not want to change from ROG because I'm already used to, I didn't want to change to like a Gigabyte or an ASRock or an Asus. I actually used to have an ASRock before I used the Asus ROG. But you know, I trust Asus a lot. I've used a lot of their products in the past. They've always been pretty good. Okay, turn on, take off this cable. So this is the bracket part where you mount the CPU. Alright, and this is the Intel Core i7-12700K, and the socket is the LGA 1700. Oops. Oops. Okay. The installation instructions for the Intel CPU, and this is the Intel Core i7-12700K, which is overclockable because it's the K series, right? See the die right here. So yeah, a pretty nice CPU, I think, for the price. A lot of people say this is actually better performing than the equivalent Ryzen processor. So it should be a little bit faster than the Ryzen 7 5800K actually. So yeah, let's check it out. Yeah, 12700. Okay, so you guys can see that, right? And I'm going to be putting that into the motherboard. this is the 32 gigabytes Corsair Vengeance DDR5 RAM I'll be using. So yeah, this is the DDR4 RAM that I had, the old DDR4 RAM, and this is the new DDR5 RAM. So yeah, both Corsair Vengeance, right? I just want to have the DDR5. It's going to be faster. Alright, so I have the new RAM. Old RAM goes there. Alright, let's see, what should we do first? We can also install CPU or install... Okay, so this little latch here needs to be released. So just go like this and it releases CPU latch. And that's where you put in the CPU. Okay. Let's put the CPU in there. The Holy Grail. This is the center of the system, the brain of the system right here. The Intel Core i7-12700K. Oh man. Alright, what a thing of beauty, right? Intel was the one who invented the x86 architecture that pretty much all CPUs now are built upon. And they invented some of the first, maybe it was the first microprocessor too, 8008, 8080. They made so many historically, you know, relevant. They're pretty much, Intel is the kind of grandfather of the CPU industry. So we now need to install, I have the CPU just installed right here. I just put it inside the socket. Now we need to install the the brackets for the CPU cooler. Back part. This doesn't exactly fit. How does this fit in here? Okay, so actually for this CPU cooler, the Noctua U12A, they have different instructions for AMD versus Intel. So yeah, these brackets, these mounting brackets are actually only for AMD chipsets, which is why these ones actually do not fit onto this motherboard, because these are specific for the AMD socket. So I have to find the right mounting brackets for the Intel chipset, which is this one is actually called the LGA 1700 chipset, but I think the 115X I think should be able to. This one doesn't have one for 1700. Since this is, I bought the CPU cooler like 2 years ago before this chipset came out, but it should work for this one as well. So yeah, this cooler is the Noctua NH-U12A. It's pretty well known actually for gaming enthusiasts. Pretty good air cooler. So yeah, we're just going to use the other brackets. So we're not going to use the AMD ones. So I'm going to put the, yeah, so these are the mounting brackets for the AMD chipset. Don't need those ones. Okay. So we're going to use the mounting plate for, this was the mounting plate for AMD. I think this is the mounting plate for Intel. So I'm going to use the one for Intel right here. So we can attach the back plate here. Alright, so basically I am just going to install the CPU cooler now, which Noctua does require a different mounting bracket for the Intel chipset, Intel motherboards. So put the bracket on the back here, and then yeah, I'm going to install the mounting brackets now. Alright, so now we got kind of the mounting bracket for the Noctua U12A cooler. Now we're just going to apply the thermal paste using the Noctua H2. This is Noctua H2. Apply a gentle amount of thermal paste. Press a small amount not too much. Okay, just gonna apply a small amount here. Yeah, now I applied the thermal paste onto the CPU. Then we're ready to install the CPU cooler heatsink now. Okay, there we go. We got the heatsink screwed on to the CPU now. So that's what it looks like on the motherboard. All right. Now we're gonna put on the fans. So these are the Noctua fans. I only have one CPU header on this motherboard, so I have to use like a Y cable to connect both of these fans to the one CPU fan header. And we got 2 low noise cables as well. So let's use the low noise adapters too. Yeah, I think let's use the low noise adapters as well. All right, it's the Y cable, okay. Okay, so yeah, the Y cable right here. I only have one CPU fan header here, so I can connect this one here, and this one can now connect both of these Noctua fans for improved performance and low noise performance. Because everyone wants to have a more quiet CPU, right? I mean, a more quiet computer, right? So yeah, these cables are just, yeah. Anyways, we should have some pretty good thermal performance now because we got 2 fans cooling the CPU right here. Right, we can just test that they're able to move freely. Able to move freely. Okay. Alright, yep. So we should be able to have some pretty good cooling here, and then also have a quiet amount of cooling so it doesn't make the computer loud. Okay, so there we go. We got the CPU cooler attached, the Noctua U12A. That was from my previous motherboard attached. So, alright, that's that part. And then we can just get the RAM. The RAM's pretty easy. Actually, I had to take off this fan in order to attach one of the RAM sticks. So let's do that. This is blocking the DIMM slot. Okay, so yeah, DDR5, Corsair Vengeance RAM. I got 2 16GB sticks, total of 32 gigs. So let's attach it. Simple as just pressing it in. Actually, I wonder if it's this way. Okay. And there should be a click. So maybe it's the other way. There we go. It's this way. Just press it in until you hear a click. There we go. So yeah, RAM is now attached now too. Put back on the CPU. Cooler fan, okay. Yeah, nice. Next step. AIO cooler, I do not have that. Okay, now we install the M2. The M2 goes next. So there's 2 M2 sockets. We're gonna have the Samsung 970 EVO Plus and the Intel 660p. I think the operating system is on this one, so this is the main one. So yeah, should be pretty much the same as the other motherboard. So this was the SSD heatsink, which apparently I needed to remove the CPU cooler to do that. And we got a little bit of thermal pad here. Okay, so this is the the thermal pad for the SSD. So I'm gonna now install the Intel 660p, which is my main OS drive, onto here. It's my main OS drive. Oh. Alright, there we go. And then we just need a screw for this one, which is actually here. This is the screw for that one. Okay. Alright, so I installed one of the SSDs. The other one is at the bottom, so I'm gonna flip it over, and this one's on the bottom here, so I'm gonna install it here. This is like not the optimal place for SSD placement, so the SSD here is like a little bit bent, unfortunately. Hope it's okay though. Hope the data's still there. Yeah, because it was like this when I removed it from the last motherboard, so yeah, hope that's okay. Alright, so those are the SSDs installed. Yeah, I don't want to screw it too much because this SSD, this part is already kind of bent, which, you know, I hope that I don't lose any data on this SSD. But this part is like already bent because it's like not the optimal place to put an SSD. Like underneath the motherboard is not really the best place, but yeah, I hope the data is okay on there. Alright, so it's like next step is to mount it into the chassis. Okay. So yeah, we got the SSDs installed right here and here as well, right, front part. So yeah, time to put everything into the chassis now. Replace the damaged thermal pad with this pad. Okay, this is an extra thermal pad for the M2. I don't think is it necessary on this one, I wonder? I wonder if it's necessary on this one. Maybe it needs a thermal pad, let's see. Okay, so we're going to put the motherboard inside of here now. Mount it onto the chassis. That's what I have all the motherboard screws here for. Okay. Alright, time for the heart of the computer. This is like the heart of the computer. Go in, make sure that this... Oh, you know what? I still have the back plate for the old one here. Oh man. Yeah, this is like the back plate for the old one. Okay. This is gonna have to... How is this gonna match up? Let's see. Yeah, This is from the old motherboard. There we go. Push that out. I still had the old backplate in there. So yeah, we're gonna put in the new one, new motherboard right here. So the I/O is correct I/O. Okay. So do this. Heart of the computer goes in like this. This being a mini ITX board, it should fit here. Just push this one out. Yeah, so this is the new I/O board. New I/O board goes there. Okay. Okay, motherboard swap complete. So, yeah, that's the new motherboard installed in there. Now I just gotta figure out the connections. So, ATX power connection, SATA power connection, okay. PSU. Gonna do the PSU next. Okay, so this one's on this side because we need the PSU connectors and everything, right? So, alright. Alright, so on this side, that's where we need a new PSU, and that's where our new Corsair SF850L goes. So open up this bad boy, put it in. Okay, so there it goes. Important information from Corsair. Is this just safety stuff? Okay, it's not that important, it's just, well, it is important, but it's like safety stuff that no one ever reads, so whatever. Oh, these are cable ties, power cable. Whole bunch of power connection cables right here for the PSU. So many cables now. Alright, here's our PSU right here. This one aside. And, oops, not this one either. Alright, so yeah, this is our Corsair SF850L high-powered, well, higher power PSU. It should be good for 850 watts at 12 volts. Yeah. Max power 850 watts. Yep. Yeah. Upgrading from 600 watt PSU, which is this one. This is a 600 watt PSU. Upgrading to 850 watts should be enough for our new GPU and CPU. Hopefully. So yeah. And these are all the connectors and stuff. We gotta make sure that this connects to the motherboard properly. And this is important because otherwise you could fry your motherboard, right? And actually at the back here, you can see that the SSD is right here, and this is the back of the motherboard here. So, yeah, make sure we get the connections correct here. Next power connection. This is where our cable goes to power the case. Right. I mean, this is where the cable goes to power the power connection cable to the back of the case here. Okay. Yep. So we got to here. This is where the power cable is for connection. So just should be able to fit in the same slot, right? Bigger. I thought it was the same size. It's a little bit bigger. Okay. little bit lengthier, right? So this is the size difference here. So this is the SF600 and the SF850 is definitely a little bit bigger. But still should fit around the same slot on the back though. The back it should still be the same slot. It just like juts out a little bit more over there, which is fine because my case can still handle that. I just hope that it still fits in the same slot in the back. It should be able to. Yeah. It still fits around the same slot in the back. Okay, that's important. So yeah, power the PSU fit still. It's just juts out a little bit more from the front, but that's okay, because my case can still handle that. Okay, now I gotta figure out the connections to the motherboard now. This is what it looks like now. I'm just gonna figure out the connections to the motherboard. So unfortunately it turns out that I cannot use the same cables as before because apparently the connectors are a little bit smaller on the new PSU. I mean, yeah, so this was the connector on the old PSU and then this is the connector on the new one. You can see the new one is a lot smaller. So I actually need to use these new cables. That's kind of annoying. Alright, anyways, let's use the new cables. There's two slots here for PCIe and CPU, which is kind of confusing. So I just kind of chose the top one, but I'm not sure if that's the right, hope it's the right one. It's confusing that there's two slots there. That's correct. So yeah. Now I got the CPU connection and the ATX motherboard connection. So that's the main cables to connect the PSU. And there's a GPU cable we'll add later. And then there's a SATA device. Yeah, okay, and now I'm gonna connect the SATA HDD. Basically what I did was there is a connector here for the front panel audio, which is basically these two audio jacks right here. So the Lian Li T150 comes with two audio jacks right here, and that's to connect the front panel audio. And then there's a USB-C connector here on the front panel as well, and then that connector goes right there. So yeah, there's a couple of connectors I had to connect first. This is the USB-C front panel connector. This is the SATA drive connector for my HDD. And this was the front panel audio connector. Okay, so I think I have to change the connectors for my hard drive too, because these are using the old connectors that fit into my old PSU. Which I need new pins for the new PSU, so I need to change the SATA connectors. So yeah, I need to take out my SATA hard drive now. I had to connect this this one too. This is the fan, the front fan for the case. Because yeah, I can see that because there's actually 4 SATA connectors in a row here. It's actually meant to connect multiple SATA drives. If you have a bigger case, then you can possibly have multiple SATA drive mounting slots and just mount multiple SATA drives. And yeah, this one is meant to connect multiple at a time. Okay, so yeah, connecting the SATA drive. Alright, so I think I finally got everything connected. That took a while, but I think that's everything. So this is the SATA connector from my hard drive to the motherboard. This is the USB 3.2 front panel connector, the USB-C front panel connector, the HD audio connector right here. Then the back, the CPU power connector and the CPU fan connector at the back, and the ATX power connector right there, which is a big one. So yeah, I think that's everything. Man, it takes connecting cables. It's like, this is the most time consuming part of building a PC, I think, is connecting the cables and getting them organized and stuff. Man, okay. So yeah, I think that should be it. I just gotta turn on the power supply, and then you see our new connections at the back here, a little bit different than the old motherboard. Like I said, there's two actual USB connections and 2 more audio connections here compared to the AMD board. But yeah, all I have to do is connect it to a power cable. Oh yeah, there's most important thing is the GPU. Alright, so the last thing to connect is the GPU. So this is the Asus RTX 4060 Ti, and again, I need a new connector for it, right? Because the PSU has different connections. So I think I found the cable for it. It's a PCIe 6-pin plus 2-pin to a mini 8-pin connector. So I think this is the one I should use. So yeah, I'm going to connect. Yeah, so this is the connector right here. So I'm not sure why it's a 6 plus 2 instead of an 8, but maybe those of you who know more about the PCIe connections can tell me. So I'm going to connect this end to the GPU right here. Okay. Alright, I think that's correct. Alright, and then I'm gonna, oh man, these cables are gonna really be in the way. Alright, the PCIe slot. Alright, so this is basically, yeah, just push it down onto the PCIe slot and line up the I/O here. So yeah. Just push it in until I hear a click. Yep. Okay, now it's pretty much in there, and I'm going to secure it to the case. then the cable goes to the PSU here. I think it's the PCIe. Again, I'm not sure which one is supposed to use, the top one and the bottom one, but we have two different options, I guess, on connections here. Alright, I think that's it. Oh, okay. I think I got everything connected now. So, yeah, oh man, that was a lot of connections. So, this is like the most time-consuming part of building a CPU, is connecting everything. So, yeah, this is a PCIe connection here. So my RTX 4060 Ti is connected there to the PCIe slot. And then this one is the SATA connector for the HDD. This one is the USB front panel, or the USB front panel 3.2 connection. This one is the USB-C connection for the front panel. This one is the ATX power supply. Then back there is the CPU power connected to the PSU. And then we have the fan header connected, and then the CPU fans connected at the back as well. And then we have this one is the front panel. Oh no, this is the HD audio. Yeah, this is the audio for the front panel. And then we also have the CPU chassis fan connected at the back too. So that's a lot of connectors. And on the PSU, yeah, we have one for the SATA, for the motherboard, for the CPU, and for the GPU. Yeah, that's a lot of connections. Right, so yeah, we just got to switch it on. Right there, that's the power supply, you got to switch that on. And then again, we have more connections here at the back compared to the previous board. So we have 2 more USB and 2 more audio connections compared to the AMD board. So yeah, now the final step is actually, I'm going to try to boot up this computer, because I think all the hard drives have been installed, right? The SSDs have all been installed, the hard drive has been installed, everything has been connected. So now is the moment of truth. Will my computer work or not? Oh man, I'm a little bit nervous about this. And I'm going to connect. Do I have a display port out? I'm just going to try the HDMI output first. Try the HDMI out and try to connect it to one of my portable monitors, and then try to turn the thing on and see if it boots up or not. Moment of truth coming out. Alright. Alright guys, so there's actually one last upgrade I have to make to this computer. So previously my main SSD drive on here, the OS drive, is actually running a very old SSD. It's an Intel 660p, which I think is from 2018 or something like that. And it only gets read speeds up to what, 1500 megabytes per second sequential, which is very slow. So I'm going to upgrade that to a Crucial P3 Plus. This is still a budget SSD, but it's going to be much faster because it uses NVMe 4. So this one will get up to 5000 megabytes per second read speed. So that's obviously going to be a huge upgrade. That's, you know, many times. I think, yeah, like 4 times the speed, 3 or 4 times the speed of my OS SSD. So yeah, we're going to upgrade that. And the basically a simple thing for me to do here is just to I have to take out the motherboard and just replace the main SSD on here with this one. So let's do that. The SSD part is actually right here, so I just have to remove the heat shield and then replace that. Pretty much, so what you guys see again, this is the part I removed. So the heat shield was removed, and now I just gotta put the new SSD in, slot it into the M2 slot right there. So yeah, all right. that's really it. It wasn't that hard to change out the main SSD, because all I had to do was pop out the GPU from the slot, remove one of the fans, disconnect the HD audio cable, and that's all that was really necessary to access the heat shield on the motherboard. And after that, it's as simple as just taking off the heat shield and then swapping the SSDs. So that's it. I didn't have to take out the motherboard or anything, which is nice. That would have taken me a lot longer. Yeah, everything now is back into place, and should be fine. Alright, we're good. SSD has been changed. This is now my old Intel SSD in here. And yeah, we are good. Now I'm gonna boot it up. Alright, so now I have my computer hooked up to my monitor here, and I have the Asus BIOS booted up. So basically what I want to see here is, here we go, PCI Express configuration, M2 link speed, PCI X16 link speed, board devices, yeah, so everything is good here as I expected. Now to actually look at the SSD that I just installed, I'll go to NVMe configuration, and then I see that this first one here is called the CT1000P3 SSD8, and total size is 1 terabyte as expected. And this is what we expect, actually, because now that I installed the Crucial SSD in the first slot, it recognizes it, and then my second SSD is still my Samsung 970 EVO Plus, so of course it recognizes that too. So it's good. That's the BIOS recognizes it, so it's good. That means the SSD is properly installed. Now all I have to do is install Windows 11 on it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. After I install Windows 11, then yeah, should be a fairly straightforward process to get this all formatted with the Windows, and then booted up and everything. But yeah, otherwise this is another nice upgrade for my computer. So I basically upgraded almost everything on this computer except for the CPU cooler and I guess the HDD drive, which is still 3 terabyte, and I guess the Samsung EVO as well. So yeah, basically everything except for the secondary SSD, the hard drive on the HDD rotating hard drive on it, and the CPU cooler, everything, and the case, right, of course, everything except for those has been updated. So yeah, GPU was upgraded, motherboard was upgraded, CPU was upgraded, PSU was upgraded, and memory was upgraded as well, and the main SSD was upgraded. So yeah, all I have to say is it's a success. So that's it, guys. What an enjoyable journey it has been. It was tough to get this computer up and running again, but finally I think I got to where I wanted to be. Actually, you guys can see even from this simple BIOS display right here, you can see that we can see all the storage information here, and there is a Toshiba, that's my HDD with 3 terabytes, and then 2 NVMe drives. The second one is the Samsung SSD 970 EVO Plus I had before, and then the first one is now a CT1000P3 SSD, which is the Crucial that I just installed. That's also 1 terabyte. So yep, that's how you know it recognizes that the SSD was installed properly. Yeah, and also you guys can see the other stuff I installed too, which is the Intel Core i7 12700K CPU at 4.7 gigahertz, 32 gigs of memory, both of which are Corsair 16 gigabyte modules. So yeah, that's all been installed. And also in addition to that, you can even see the fans. So I have a CPU fan and a chassis fan, and you can see both of those are working as well. It even tells you the RPM. CPU fan, which is the Noctua, actually is running at 800 RPM. The chassis fan, which is a Cooler Master at the front here, running at 960 RPM. So nice, I can see the fan speeds as well. By the way, I just want to show this step for those of you who are having trouble with reinstalling Windows. But basically, this is what you have to do on an Asus motherboard. So first, of course, you got to go into the BIOS. So for Asus is going to be F2. Go into the BIOS, and then go to Advanced Settings. And what you have to do is, I think out of the box for Asus motherboards, you have to change this. So go to Boot Configuration, and you have to disable Fast Boot. So Fast Boot has to be disabled. And then Secure Boot, make sure that Secure Boot is also disabled as well. And then once you disable these, you basically have to save changes and reset, right? But after you do that, go back into the BIOS, and then you'll see the option to boot from the USB. So for those of you guys who have not seen, if you can't find the option to boot from a USB, it's probably because secure boot or fast boot is enabled. You have to disable those. Once you disable those, then you'll see the option to boot from the USB. In my case, I'm using a SanDisk USB right here, which has a copy of Windows 11. So yeah, you should be able to see this after you disable secure boot or fast boot. Yep, so I'm just going to do that. And then yeah, pretty much I put the boot priority #1 as my USB. So that's set as boot priority #1, so it should just boot into the USB now, since I changed that from the BIOS. So yeah, just wait for the Windows to load here. I mean, yeah, just wait for the Asus logo here. It's kind of a boot up. Okay, and yeah, it'll just launch into the Windows installation because now I changed the boot priority. So you got to disable secure boot, got to disable fast boot, then change the boot priority to launch from the USB as priority #1, and then it'll launch the installation if you have this formatted, of course, right? This is assuming you have a formatted USB key with the Windows installation on it. So yeah, if you guys are having trouble getting that boot option to appear in the menu, that's how you do it from Asus motherboard. Hey, so here's another error I ran into when I'm trying to install Windows. Maybe you guys might have ran into the same error, but this is the new SSD I just installed, but I can't install Windows on it because it says Windows can, on EFI systems, Windows can only be installed to GPT disks. So, see that error. Yeah, if you see this error, it's actually pretty easy to fix. You just have to convert it to from an MBR partition to a GPT drive. So how you do that is you have to press Shift F10 to bring up the command prompt, and then what you have to do here now is do disk partition. Start that up. List disk. And then I see that, yeah, basically the new crucial SSD I added is not GPT. I have to convert it to GPT. So basically I have to select disk 1. This is the one I want to convert. I don't have any data on it because I just installed it. So don't need to worry about backing anything up. So I just clean, and then yeah. So just make sure this is the one selected, not GPT, right? And then we had to convert GPT. This will delete all the data on here, but it's fine because I don't have any data on here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I converted it. So yeah, then I can go back to install. Now let's see if I can install Windows on here. Custom install Windows only. Here we go. So now I don't have that error anymore. Yeah, so now I think we should be good here. Type primary, okay, format. So we can create a new partition on here. Should all Windows might create addition partition, okay. Okay. So we created a new partition on there, and I go next, and now I can install Windows on there. So yeah, and this will take a while because, you know, Windows takes a while to install, but I think that's what you have to do if you see that error. It's actually quite simple to solve it. Alright guys, so now I got Windows 11 all installed now, and you guys can see that yeah, everything's here. The CPU 12th gen Intel Core i7-12700K, 32 gigs of memory. That's DDR5 memory now. I still got my Toshiba 3TB HDD here, that hasn't changed. And then my Samsung 970 EVO Plus, 1 TB. And now I have my crucial P3 SSD, or P3 Plus SSD now installed. You guys can see that is properly working now and operating as my main C drive. So yeah, just install Windows on it. Everything's working as expected. And I mean, it took me a while, but finally got this computer up and running again. I got upgraded and repaired. And yeah, thankful to be using it as my main computer from now on. So that's it, guys. Alright, so this is actually one other thing I have to talk about. When I installed Windows on this computer, I used a USB key, and the Windows version was not activated, so I got this like watermark down here that says Windows not activated. So basically what I had to do was I looked for a way to activate Windows without paying for it, and this way actually works, and I just searched for it online. You basically have to run the command prompt as the administrator, so you open up the command prompt, and then you install, use this command line. Just type in this command line. Instead of KMS client key, you replace it with one of these keys here. I decided to use Windows Pro. I'm not sure the difference between Pro and or Pro, but I used that one. Just ran it in the command line like this, and then I set the KMS server like this, run another command, and then you just run this one, SL manager /ATO, and it activates Windows. And it worked. Like, I no longer have the watermark anymore. So that's just something I want to talk about. I did not know it was this simple to activate Windows without paying for it, but yeah, all you have to do is run 3 commands. You run this one, /IPK, set your key, and then you do the /server to set the server here, and then you just do this SL Manager ATO and activates your Windows. It's really that simple. I did not know it was this simple. So yeah, this is what you do. I think maybe you can try it again. So just go to command prompt here. I go run as administrator, and then yeah, I do this /slmgr, sorry, not slash, slmgr/IPK, and I set one of the keys here. So I just set the Pro key here. Just copy it and paste it here, and then I'll say yeah, installed product key successfully. That's what I'll say. And then set the server here. So just basically copy and paste this line here. And I'll say key management service machine name set to successfully. And then activate Windows. It's really this simple. SL Manager /ATO. So this SLMGR/ATO. And then just wait, and it says, yeah, product activated successfully. And that's all it takes, just these 3 commands. That's all you really need to do. I did not realize it was that simple to activate Windows, but yeah, that's how I activated Windows, and then I made the watermark go away. That's because, yeah, it was showing this watermark here, and then I couldn't change my wallpaper or anything, and yeah, now I can do it. So yeah, that was an easier way to activate Windows than I expected. Just run 3 commands on the command prompt, and it works. So just wanted to share that with you guys.